All right, boys and girls, this video is going to ruffle some feathers, but I think I want to talk about it because I think for me, looking back, one of the best things, or like not the best things, but one of the required steps to get where I am right now, full-time game developer, indie game developer, was quitting my job. And oh, no. But Marnix, you can't say that because everybody on Reddit says that you shouldn't quit your job. And I think everybody on Reddit is right. Because the people on Reddit who give advice, they end up making $1,000 games after 2 years. That get scope creeped to hell, which is why they never come out. And it's kind of the thing of like, you know, it's the good boy thing for me to say, oh, don't quit your job. Keep working until you've made enough money to replace your normal income. And I think, honestly, it's not going to happen. I think there is... If you are, you would genuinely be able to do that, like keep working on your main job whilst making games on the side until your games earn enough money that you can quit your main job by having the same amount of money. I have bad news for you. If you've done that, you're like a top 0.01% outlier, but you are not the average Python viewer. Now, am I saying, oh, you should quit your job? No, I'm just saying that for me, that was the right way. And it was what I needed to do at the place where I was in my life. And I want to talk about that. I want to share that with you guys as well, because this channel is aimed at people who want to make games commercially with a business sense and not just eternal hobbyists. If you're a hobbyist, you're welcome here. Don't get me wrong, but you are not the core target audience of this channel. I hope you have bigger ambitions for yourself. Why do I not like this? And let me also preface, I used to have a really good fucking job. I worked as a data center architect at Cisco. Cisco is like a Fortune 50 company. I was the guy who designed data centers. And back then, I was making about $100,000 a year, which is a really good salary if you're a 22-year-old kid living in Belgium, because Belgium does not really have American tech salaries. And still, I ended up quitting that job to go into game dev. And for a long time, was like, was this the stupidest thing ever? Maybe, but I think now I can definitely say that if I didn't do that, I think Byte would have never, it would have just fizzled out and I would still be working that same job now and probably would have released one more game at most. So let's talk about why. I think there's a bunch of problems with staying in your job, and that is safety. Safety is a problem. I don't know if that's, you know, this might seem dumb, but you just don't have time. That's problem number one. Because you have your other main job that's like 40 hours a week or whatever, and then you're going to try to cram in, you can do at most 20 hours a week most of the time. Unless you like are like single, have no social life, then maybe, yeah, you can crank in more hours. But otherwise, there's just a hard limit. You're also going to be tired. Your development speed is going to be 10x timeline inflated. Like, you know, we talk about small games on this channel often. And when I talk about small games and about timelines in general, I always talk about the assumption of, hey, you're a full-time game developer, like me, like our team. And a small game, you can genuinely make a good small game like MO98 in, I think it was about 3 months. Yeah, I think it was 100 days start to finish to make that game, basically 3 months and a week. That would not be possible, such a small game, if you had another job. Then suddenly it becomes a 2-year project. And that's kind of the problem. Once you start working in 2-year projects, there is a relatively low number of games you can make because before you're going to fall to the ground and die. And this might seem extremely, I don't know, depressing or like macabre, but if you spend on average 2 years per game to make one, you're gonna make 20 games or something at most in your entire life. And it's like, is that the most? And it's also like the thing of like, MO98 is a game I could spend 3 months on. And I would not get sick of it. And I can spend 3 months on that game and I can just power through, even if like it turns out it's not super fun or something. But a 2-year commitment to a project is extremely hard. You're going to want to quit at points. You're going to get sidetracked at points. And it's like, okay, that game, if I had to work on MO98, even at a reduced pace for 2 years, probably I would have started something new. Probably I would not have been able to push through that long because that's just a timeline that people generally can't really do. And I know you're probably thinking now, oh, but Marnix, I'm sure I could dedicate 2 years of my life to this game. And it's like, maybe. But it's also like if you start an incremental game now and it's going to come out in 2 years from now, it's kind of fucked. That was also another thing. We saw incremental games are picking up right now. We have the speed to move fast, and we were able to still ride that wave, whereas that wave is ending very, very quickly, I feel, of making incremental games, but we were able to kind of fast follow that approach, basically, and it paid off big time for us. So that's problem number one. I think problem number two also is like, why, you know, maybe this is what you want as well, but there's no urgency. It's like, yeah, but Marnix, I don't care about that. I don't care about like having to fossil. And it's like, yeah, because you have no real incentive to want to release your game. There's a very big difference in making a game because like, oh, I need to pay rent, or making a game because it sounds like a cool idea and I wanted to figure out how Godot works anyway, and we'll see. Maybe I'll make it a Steam page. Maybe I'll just make it an Israel game. You see what I mean? Like, you're not going to wake up early in the morning to start working on your game if you do not have that vision of like, I have this concrete end goal. I want to make this my full like career, basically. If you're just like, hey, I'm still making 5K a month or whatever. And I think that is another big risk of like, there will never be that perfect moment. I think that's the final thing of like, okay, lifestyle inflation is also a thing of like, let's say you are an actual like extraordinary developer and you make 5K a month in your regular job. And then your goal is like, okay, I have my costs, I'm going to spend my time developing the games on the side. And then once I've made 5K a month bonus from my main game, then I'm going to quit my real job, basically. And it's like the danger there is that let's say you have a semi-consistent 2K a month from like your previous games catalog and you push out some more games. This is already extremely, extremely rare. Don't get me wrong. You're just going to lifestyle inflate most of the time. And then suddenly you're going to move the bar. It's like, oh, if I make 10K a month, if I make 7K a month, however much. And that number will never be enough because as you get older also, you're going to take on more responsibilities in life and whatever. And it's kind of to say like there is no perfect moment to say. There will never be a very clear indicator for the most part of like, okay, now I need to go full time. Like I think the only like exception is like you get laid off and your severance package is like basically 2 years of runway. Yes, that is a sign. But I think otherwise, I don't think there's much. Now, that doesn't mean that, hey, I should quit my job because Marnix says I need to quit my job right now. No. That's also not what I'm saying. I'm talking about why it was good for me as well. The first thing is there's a difference between taking a calculated leap and just being a blind risk because some handsome guy with a white t-shirt on the internet said that he quit his job to make games and he's doing pretty okay right now. First mistake, if you're in our Discord, which you should be because it's a very cool place, don't be like the guy. There was like one guy who came in and he's like, hey, here's my 52-week plan. I asked Claude to give me a plan to start a profitable game studio in 52 weeks, like week by week. If you do that, don't quit your job or you're going to become part of the permanent underclass, unfortunately. And I think another like bare minimum requirement, if you actually want to do it, is having shipped at least one game to Steam. Having at least gone through it yourself, known that, hey, I can actually make a game. That is, I think, one of the big things. The big milestones you need to have is, even if it was a dog shit game and it got 200 wishlists and it made $400, I think still that is like the minimum threshold of like, I can ship. Because that is an important thing. That's something a lot of developers honestly cannot do. And I'll make a future video about that probably, who cannot ship. No matter what their intentions are, they just keep canceling projects, they keep scope creeping, and they never end up finding the ability to wrap up a game and be like, enough is enough. I'm going to put this out there and I'm moderately proud of it. And let's move on to the next game. So just also, you know, like the flow of like how Steamworks work and all of that is, I think, a good one. Another one, you need runway, 12 to at least, honestly, I think like 18 to 24 months, because I'm going to be honest, it took a long time. We made a previous video, which we can find like over there, I think, of how it took us a total of 1,500 days to get into like real like profitability for our business. I think the first 2 years, I did not pay myself any money. Like the company made money, but I didn't pay myself a salary. I had a pretty big nest egg. I had, for reference, I think about 30,000 euros, because I was in Belgium, when I quit my job at Cisco and I went into full-time game dev. And for the first, 2 years or something, 1.5 years, I didn't pay myself. I just had like IOUs from the company of like, at some point, we're going to make money and we're going to pay ourselves out. And at this point, I have no more outstanding IOUs. I've been able to pay off my like outstanding debt, basically, which is very nice. But you need enough money because it is, of course, I'm going to be honest once again, a really risky thing. But you know, if it wasn't risky, everyone would be a full-time game dev right now. And I think a last thing that I also would say is that ideally, you know, this is kind of like the thing of like perfect sign. I think you should have released one game, be working on the second game, and have like some sort of like idea or traction. Like having having maybe a Steam page up that's gotten like, even if it's just a few hundred wish lists, there's something. You have something concrete you can chase so that when you quit the job, you can immediately go into that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So when do you do this? When should you? I think honestly, this might be bad, but you need to have a level of risk tolerance. You need to be comfortable with this. I think a lot of people also just don't have this level of risk tolerance, or they can't have it anymore. I often meet up with viewers and it's like, yeah, Marnix, I'm 40 years old. I have a kid. I have a wife. I have a mortgage. And then I think, yeah, unfortunately, it may be too late right now, which is also why I'm like, there is no perfect time. I think it's the earlier you can do it, the better, because the younger you are, the more you can somewhat fuck around and find out for the most part. I would say that if you're able and like if you can afford to watch GameDev YouTube videos, I'm going to make a statement that even if you're like not in a well-off country, you're also not really homeless, and you have like some level of safety net, because otherwise you would not be watching GameDev content. I think for the most part, you don't have like any like dependence, or you have like a low overhead. Like, you know, this is such a bro-y thing to say, but like maybe like genuinely you're in a position that you could be like, fuck it, I'm gonna move to Thailand or like another low cost of living country and work from there to like increase my runway. And I don't have to move like my wife and my kids and all of those things. You're kind of like still like lone wolf grind set almost, and you can do that. So I think, I don't know if I mentioned age, was like between like 28 years would probably be kind of the thing that I would go for. And also, go and plan before you quit of like, what's the worst case scenario? I think that kind of ties into the, you're probably not going to be homeless, of like, let's say you spend 2 years on this and you've shipped 2 games and you've made a total of $600. What would your life look like then? I think that's another big thing. Like for me, you know, especially back when I quit my job, it was a better economic situation. I'm like, I have motherfucking Cisco on my resume. I have all of the certs. I know my shit. I can most likely find a job in IT again. And honestly, I think to a certain degree, I could now, like not in Japan. I live now in Japan because that's the benefits of being able to quit my job. Oh, I should talk about the benefits. It's really fucking nice, let me tell you, to not have to work at another company anymore. But I was like, okay, I had like kind of this like turning point. I think I had like 2 years of runway. And then I was like, okay, at 1 year, I'm going to do like a review of like, should we pivot? Should I start looking into finding jobs, or can we like keep pushing? And in my case, I was like, okay, we've released 1 game. It made like 10K. Let's keep pushing, basically. But kind of have an idea of like, okay, let's say that I do generally make $600 from this whole GameDev thing. How fucked am I? Yes, I will have eaten into my savings, which is going to be a problem. But it's like, you know, such is life. But you're probably not going to be homeless. If you are thinking like, oh, I'm genuinely going to be homeless, yeah, then don't quit your job, my dude. Don't watch this video then. But I think for the most part, life is not that dramatic as you think it is. Maybe you have a partner you can rely on as well. Maybe you have your parents, you know, all of those things. And then I think the most important thing is, like I said, I mentioned this kind of with having some sort of validation. Don't quit your job to brainstorm. Do the brainstorming while you still have a job. Have a prototype or something. And then only once you have that, then is the point where you're like, okay, let's go into this. Because you're kind of saving a bunch of time to do it. I think maybe one like final thing that I didn't write on my list, but I think is also important. If your job sucks, it's an extra reason. I used to work in sales, or like I got pushed into sales, and I was like, I hate sales. I don't drink alcohol, and like my company was sending me to like these business dinners or like meetups and all of that in like the evenings at like breweries and shit. And I'm like, I don't drink alcohol. I'm surrounded by 40-year-old dudes who have nothing in common with you. What am I trying to sell them? And I was like, I'm miserable at my job. And that was also the thing of like, okay, I need to find a way to get out of here. So what does the first month look like? Let's say you are like, hey, actually, I'm going to quit my job at some point. I think there's some things that I do want to mention as well that kind of nobody tells you, or like I didn't know. And I think that first thing is that being your own boss is really, really hard. Do not underestimate that, of like the switch from, oh, I have work and I have my routine of I wake up at 7 in the morning. Back in my case, I woke up at 5:20 in the morning or something because I had horrible rush hour, like rush traffic. I go to work, I clock my hours, I go back home, I work a bit, I go to sleep. And then suddenly you wake up and it's like, oh, why? I don't need to wake up at 5:20 anymore. I can just sleep until 9. And for some people, that's great. But I think especially in that first month, you're going to waste a bunch of time because trying to do everything and managing yourself is a lot harder than you might think that it is going to be. I think that's also, we have someone else in our team, William. He also quit his job a little bit after me. And I think also one of the things that he needs is like, he needs me to basically like still be kind of his boss and be like, William, this needs to be done. Because he really has problems. If I just tell him, William, make a game all on your own now, I think he would crumple up into a ball of sadness and no game would be made. And I think that is something that you need to be aware of as well. Like, how am I as a person? So once again, if you don't think you are able to control your own hours and time, you're going to have a problem. Now, of course, you would generally know this, I would say, in advance. If you have like high agency, I don't know if high agency is the right term, you would be able to work on nights or weekends and all of that. Whereas I think if you already struggle right now in working outside of your main job on your game, if you're already like barely squeezing in time, I have bad news for you. Quitting your job is most likely not going to give you the time that you were looking for, because you do not have a time problem, you have a time management problem, and you have a self-management problem. So I think that's number one. I think number two is also, okay, so you do have time. The big problem that I see developers then have, and that I had as well, is like doing useful stuff with that time, where you could also spend all of those extra hours on just refactoring and building more generic systems and all of that shit. That doesn't actually mean working on the game, but you feel productive. And once again, you do not have a third-party boss who will sit down with you in a weekly one-on-one and is like, you need to do this or else you're gonna get fired or whatever. No. Suddenly all of your decisions get pushed back a lot more, because if you now for the next 3 months just decide to only refactor your game, there's no real recourse except 9 months from like now, basically, which is like an eternity for your monkey brain. Suddenly then, oh, I have no wish list because I actually have no game to market yet. That is, I think, the main problem. And then I think the kind of like thing that you can do there, and that I did, is like every feature that we did, I kind of in my brain put like, how much cost does this cost in terms of runway? It's like, oh, this is 2 weeks of my 2 years of runway. Do I think this is worth that much time? Probably not. It's suddenly like, you know, way more tangible if there is like a clear, like, I am going to run out of money, or like not really run out of money. Don't drive yourself to zero. In my case, I also had kind of this threshold of if my total like money went under 10,000 euro, that was the point that I'm like, okay, now we really need to reconsider, because that like 10K limit kind of still gave me a good checkpoint of like, okay, if I realize that, okay, I don't think I have anything promising game dev wise, and I'm kind of like, you know, I did this whole experiment of becoming a full-time game dev and it didn't work out. At least I still have enough runway. So 10K is about 6 months of runway for me to be like, okay, I can find a job, or I can start handing out blowjobs on the street corner, or like finding some other way to make things work. Don't drive yourself all the way into zero, because that's like, why are we doing this? This is needlessly shooting yourself in the foot. But having that like runway cost as well, like, okay, this is gonna lower the budget by like 2 weeks or something, has a lot more impact than just like, oh yeah, I'll just work an extra 2 weeks on it. Who cares? I'm still getting paid from the main job. And once again, you get like more inflation. It's not just you have less time. It's also just you have less urgency to do the right things with that time if you have another job to work for. I think that the final thing that I want to talk about in like that first month, and this was something that I really had, is that either that first day or like that first month, basically, you will wake up and you will have incredibly insane pressure of like, did I fuck up? Did I mess up? Did I make a mistake? And should I just call my job and be like, hey, can you hire me again? I had a lapse in judgment. Or you're going to do the opposite, and it's kind of what I had. You don't really realize what you've done. You don't realize the reality of your situation for like the first month of like, oh yeah, sure. It kind of feels like you're on vacation. And unfortunately that vacation is going to end at some point, and it's better that it ends sooner rather than later. I think to a certain degree, yeah, having like a week off. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. You know, I want to kind of maybe, I don't have this on my script. I want to talk about some of the benefits of like quitting your job. That's not just, oh, you're your own boss. Like kind of, I guess it's also a benefit, but like, you know, you're just so free and you can try out stuff that you can't do otherwise. So I think it's kind of, you know, this is the very cringe thing, but like do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. But I think it's true. And there's like a lot of stuff, like for example, I think the first 6 months or something, I did this concept of, I think CGP Grey once made a video about this called Weekend Wednesdays, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is day off, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is work, and then Sunday is work is day off as well. And I really liked that flow, for example. It's a bit more inconvenient if you live together with normal people, if that makes sense, because they don't want to take like days off on weekends, on Wednesdays. But for me, those are like things that you can just do. And it is so incredibly freeing. And the like thing at the end of the day is like, try to compete with me. And this might sound like an ego thing, but it's like, it's just time. Time also is like, you might be a much better developer than me. You could be 10 times better than me. But if you only have 8 hours a week to work on your game, the unfortunate news is that probably I will still outperform you. And you know, this video, if you're watched this far, I think you may have just a serious hate boner for me right now. But I think it is genuinely true. I think just having more time, having no external stress from like work, except what you're doing and what you're enjoying and what you're living and breathing, is an extreme competitive advantage to the person who can release one game every 2 years, because he's just overloaded by all of the other stuff. And I don't know, this is not like, you know, like you should quit your job. I think you should consider it. I think you should work towards it. I think that should always be the end goal of like, what would be required to quit my job? Okay, I need to have released one game. Okay, I need to have learned some stuff. I need to have enough of a runway, because that's what I did as well. I realized, oh, I need to quit my job because I don't like this and I want to go all in on this game dev stuff. And then I kept working for 4 more months before I actually handed in my notice. And then for those 4 months, I saved up everything. I put everything in my little like nest egg, basically. I stopped spending, because, you know, if you make 10K a month or like however much it is, you're spending a lot of money on dumb stuff. I'm also going to be honest. Like I had serious lifestyle inflation. And once I realized that, hey, actually, I don't want to do this, I just stopped spending money. And I drastically drew back my lifestyle, basically. I remember when I'm with my wife first, she was like, you're so cheap. And I'm like, yeah, because that's how I was able to afford this. And honestly, I don't think I was that cheap. And now especially I live pretty normally. I just don't spend money on like dumb stuff, I guess, because I knew this is what's going to afford me like going all in and affording hopefully a better life for myself. So I don't know, you know, don't mortgage your house, or like don't sell your house to go into full-time game dev maybe. But you know, if you are someone who maybe has a similar profile to me, who doesn't have kids yet or something, I would consider it if you want to make games devs full-time. I think you'll never find, you know, it's also, you need to want to make games. If you're doing this just for the money, it's not happening. There's other benefits than just you make games, of course, and you make money, but you need to also just innately enjoy making games. I have that. I love working. Even though I can take a vacation anytime I want, basically, if I don't work for more than 24 hours, I'm kind of sad and miserable. And work can be a lot of forms. It can be me reading business books or something, but I just enjoy this thing so much. If I'm not working on our main games, guess what I'm doing? I'm prototyping other game ideas. And I think if you have that, being able to do that full time is just one of the most fun things I have. And I'm very happy that this is my life. And I'm pretty confident now, you know, maybe this is big ego, but I think I can keep this lifestyle going for a while because I'm just enjoying it and I'm getting better. And that's also the thing. It's like, it's going to be compounding all of our revenue, all of our games. That's what I've been saying since when we first started making games. Like if you just keep doing this long enough and give enough repetitions, you're almost bound for success. And you're going to be able to put in way more reps if you just have way more time and way less distractions of other stuff to put onto games. So I don't know if there's much actionable. I wanted to talk about this. If you see these people on Reddit screaming like, you shouldn't quit your job, it's fine for them. If they want to make a $1,000 game, that's fine as well. Yes, there are always exceptions. Yes, you can probably hate me. I don't know. Yes, you can also just make your Godot game as a hobby and I'll still love you. But I hope you also understand where I come from and the benefits of this. Because I'm on the journey to build $1 million game studio. That's a lot of money. And I do not think you can make $1 million game studio without some serious full-time investment. And that's what I want to do. And I want you to be along with me on that journey. So if you want to follow us along, then be sure to head down below and subscribe because we upload 2 videos every week. And I think we have a lot of cool stuff to share with you still. So that's all I had to say. See you guys in the next one. Bye.